Well, we are here for another Blister Summit panel session. And this one, we're going to be taking a look at starting and growing a brand in the outdoor industry. And I'm really excited about the folks that we have on this panel. I think we've got a good range of experiences here to help us get at the heart of, I think, some pretty important questions that a lot of people around the world are wondering about. This space, obviously, this industry is obviously kind of blowing up right now. And I'm looking forward to try to pull out from you all some of the things that you have learned along the way as you all have built your own companies. So joining us here, Camille Jaccoux from Black Crows, and we've had conversations with Camille before. Camille, thank you for joining us from France, and letting us bug you late in the evening here. Appreciate it.
Good to hear you and see you again, Jonathan, and thanks for the invitation again. Very nice to be here today.
We've got Ben Anderson from Icelantic. We've got Matt Sterbenz from WNDR Alpine, and good old Dan Abrams from Flylow, with some nice Japanese-looking plant behind him. So you're looking good, Dan. Yeah, well done. I think what I want to do is just touch on a portion of each of your own respective kind of founder stories, and we'll put this in the form of this question. I think it's a pretty important question of whether, as someone is starting to think about starting a company in the outdoor space, how important do you all think it is to kind of launch with a pretty strong vision versus kind of just jumping in with a pretty half-baked idea and letting things kind of evolve from there? Like, again, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer here. Things can get chopped up a lot of different ways, but in your respective experiences, I'd just be curious to hear the kind of have that clear vision versus don't be afraid to jump in and figure it out after the fact. Ben, why don't we start with you? Which version of events do you recommend, or how did it go for you with Icelantic?
Yeah, I mean, personally, it was more just jumping in and kind of going with my gut and, just seeing how it came to life. But, I think a lot of that had to do with timing. I think if you're trying to get into the market right now, having a pretty clear strategy of where do you see opportunity and how are you going to differentiate yourselves, and, more of that clear vision compared to, back in the early 2000s when this, Icelantic was coming to life, there was so much opportunity in regards to, there just wasn't too much out there at the time. Matt had Forefront for a couple of years, but overall, there was a lot of opportunity in our industry to just be an independent brand and create something different. So I was lucky enough to, when we started Icelantic, like I said, it was just more of an idea that we got to go and really evolve the vision along the way and, get more and more clear as the years went on. And I think that worked at that time. But I think right now, if you're going to try to start a new brand, just with the amount of competition and distraction and just so many things in the world today, I think it's pretty important to have a pretty clear vision of how are you going to differentiate yourself and what are the outlets that you're going to do that.
Matt.
Yeah. I think everybody on this panel is leading brands that are a decade plus. And I'm the only idiot to get started on this project a second time. Yeah, I agree with what Ben had said. And I think, it's critical that you have a very clear vision. Now we're 2 years into this project with WNDR Alpine. And I don't think saturation should be a deterrent for people who are looking to bring a new brand to a category where there's lots of competition. So long as that you're bringing something that's unique, that drives a value proposition for yourself, but also I think is designed with intention to elevate everybody's game. And I don't mean that in the context of creating fiercer competition with one another, but bringing something to life that gives people additional resources, builds on the communication story that hopefully builds participation So it needs to be much more of a communal approach, whereas like back in the day, Forefront was like, oh, there just needs to be something that's more expressive in this dimension of skiing that wasn't representative, And so now like there's a lot of expression across all core categories in skiing, just to use as an example. And so how do you bring a new brand to market in today's climate? And I feel like that's by lifting everybody up when you do it.
Dan, with Flylow, was it a pretty clear vision, or was it like, let's just jump off the cliff and dive in and figure it out on our way down?
It was a clear vision from a product that we needed, making better ski pants. But it was totally half baked. And like actually my college buddy and co-founder, Greg, always says that we Forrest Gumped it, that, like so many, like fortuitous events happened as we went along, as we learned. So in one respect, I think it's okay to start half baked. In another respect, I think that all of us are running businesses, and businesses are all half baked, because if you think that you have it figured out and you have a crystal ball and you're not willing to change, you're going to die. So you have to be able to evolve. And so in that respect, you have to be half baked. In another respect, I look at this panel, I think of all the experience and how when we all started our businesses, we didn't know what we know now. So if I was to start a business now, or like Matt doing it this second time, like it's a lot more thought out, when I first started, I was bartending and using credit cards to pay for stuff. If I was to start another business, I would have a business plan and I would get capital from someone from the outside. So it would appear that I would be more put together this time, but I still would argue that we all need to be a little half baked in order to shift, and see that now Flylow is a glove company, but we thought we were just going to make outerwear. So.
Camille.
Yeah, no, to follow what Dan said, like for me, it's been same a combination. I think it was we had no ready plan. Our only marketing and I would say strategic plan was to try to develop a product where you believe it, and try to make a good product. I think that was really our strategy. But in parallel of that, we had no clue where we were going to, except we said, okay, let's. But I want, maybe just to add something to that, because Matt is here today, and for us at Black Rose, like Forefront, like Armada, like those, new coming brands. Black Rose been created in end of 2006. We started in 2005 the idea, but I mean like Matt and those other brands, they really showed us in Europe that it was like possible in this kind of very kind of conservative old ski industry, I will say, that it was possible to like disturb the market, create something new. And that was really our, like I would say, our motivation and how we started, but really nothing more than that, to be focused on the product and to try to believe in your story and try to create something that makes sense.
So just to kind of come back and see if there is a consensus here, given what you've all just said about, do you need to have a pretty specific vision versus just get in there, start. Each of you, I think, touched on a little bit, like 2021 is not 2010. Matt said, don't be afraid of there being a more saturated space. But if someone came to each of you and just said, hey, I really like skiing, so I'm going to start a ski company, or I really like fashion and skiing, so I want to start an apparel company. And that's kind of all they said. Is it the case that you all would, back in the day, it kind of more or less, that's what you guys did, right? You're like, well, let's try this. Let's do this. We think there's an opportunity. Would you agree that today it's a little bit different? Like you're going to need to come with a clearer strategy, a clearer point of differentiation? Like strongly agree with that or not necessarily? We're still kind of winging it, or it's okay to sort of start in and wing it.
I think, really either way, strategy or no strategy, it's a tough industry to get into, or to create a sustainable brand in. So, of course, strategy helps. The more like clear vision you have, it's, to start, I think really will help that process and potentially help you get funding and those type of pieces that are critical to success. But at the same time too, whether it's, the early 2000s or right now, it's a tough industry to create a sustainable business in. So, from the outside looking in, I've had so many people or friends just been like, you don't work. I'm like, you have no idea, So it's just like it's a really interesting, I think if anything, if you're going to do it, just like fully commit to it, and understand there's going to be some pretty intense challenges along the way, whether it's, on every level, sales, distribution, finance, all of it. So, production, whatever it may be. So, I think that's one thing that has stayed consistent is the market hasn't really grown too much. It's like in order to create a position here, you've got to, carve out a piece of it and find a customer or client base that's going to support your vision. So, and there's a lot of options too. So, and a lot of history, it's like when you look at the major brands in this, there's so much history behind it and there's so much like loyalty to those brands. So, how do you find, new customers without really creating new customers? Ideally you can create new customers, but overall it's the barrier of entry, I think, continues to get harder too. So, it's going to be a challenge, but I just say, if you're going to do it, you better give it your all.
Matt?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a challenge for any brand to be cross-generational, where you can continue to evolve in your communication strategy. There's probably an argument that could be made today in the outdoor space that there's no one brand fully leveraging TikTok, and yet that's becoming a super big influencer in the younger generations of outdoor enthusiasts. So, there's always areas where a younger brand could come in and seize an opportunity that some of these more established brands are not realizing, partly because they weren't brought up in that generation, but now they're trying to evolve into that trend. So, I think Ben's half-baked comment is correct. You kind of just have to come into it with a little bit of piss and vinegar. Hopefully your sponsor pissed you off or something happened and you just got a ton of pent-up aggression that you just want to like stick it to the man. And like that will like help give you the reminder without the neck tat to like keep going, because it's going to be an uphill, road for a minute. But there's so much that you learn along the way that it's kind of hard to say, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Even this playbook, after whatever it was, a bunch of years at Forefront, like I'm learning mistakes along the way. I'm like, damn it. Like I thought I was better than this. It happens. It's part of the humility.
Yeah.
But that's part of the journey. And I think customers want to be exposed to that journey. Like they want to feel like they're part of it. And that too, like if you can get a customer to jump off of a brand that they've been super loyal to for years, now they're kind of like free falling and they're much more open and inclined to experiencing different types of brands. Much like drinking beer, you jump off one of your favorite labels and you get surprised by something that you just grab by random, or a buddy handed you a beer in a parking lot after a good day skiing, and all of a sudden that's your favorite beer, and so it's just like you never know when that window of opportunity is going to strike, and you get a customer who's all of a sudden perked interest in a new thing. So I think you have to be, you have to be flexible, and I think you have to be really, like to Ben's point, like you need to persevere. There's going to be a lot of uphill challenges, but there's a lot of reward along the way.
Dan, I'm going to bring you back and ask you to move quicker on this. I'm going to do this with Dan and Camille, but would you say that it is now more important than it used to be to come in with that kind of clear point of differentiation? Or are you like, I don't see right now being all that different from the early 2000s, 2010?
I mean, you made a comment that, can people just say, I like skiing and join, and decide to make a ski brand? And I think, something amongst all of us is that it's more that we disliked a product and we thought that we could do it better. We thought that we could market it better. We thought that we could come up with a different side cut, come up with a different recipe. We're all using the same ingredients as everybody else, but it's our own secret sauce. And so has that changed from then to now? In some respects, I feel like it's easier because you see all these companies come on that are, have raised a bunch of cash and they're creating content and they're just pumping social media, out to people and launching their brand. Are they profitable? Can they sustain and actually make it to 10 years? That's a huge question mark. When you spend all of your money on marketing and you have to go out, you have to raise money every year, you have to get more loans, you have to get more money from investors, like you don't necessarily get to have a brand that you can grow old with. And so it comes down to what you want. And I think in terms of the market being not growing necessarily, it's market share. We're all vying for market share. There are these heritage brands that are huge and, none of them are too big that they can't fail, but within them, sliding down, it opens up market share for us to carve in. And when I look at my competitors in clothing world, we're talking about, $1 billion brands, whether it's the North Face or Patagonia. And there's a lot of room for me to carve out a sustainable business that creates jobs for people. So I think that in this day and age, it's different. It's not harder. I think getting cash is harder because before the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, you could get credit a lot easier. But then again, there's tons of investors out there that are looking to loan you money, looking to invest and so forth. And social media is reaching everywhere. So
Camille, final thoughts on this topic.
Well, it's a tough and interesting topic. As I said, when we launched, it was 2006. So I think Facebook's been created in 2004, if I'm right. So we were already at the early days of social media. And I mean, the last 15 years, as we all know, the world totally changed in a way how to communicate or to communicate about your product or for a consumer to discover a new product or to see some content. And so I think to start something today, and that's what Matt is doing, and maybe one more time, it's probably the person today who have the most experience in between four of us. I don't know if it's more difficult. It's probably faster to get some visibility, to get some content, to produce content, to be probably well known internationally than before. Us, we really started from France, and after we've been to Switzerland and to Norway, blah blah blah. Now, of course, if you start roughly, you can be, if you do it well, you can be well known internationally through social media, and you can also sell internationally through e-com. Was something totally different, even like 10 years ago, So, but after on the other side, will you? I don't know. It's not the right word. Will you fail faster, or you will be passed away faster? Because consumers, they want new things all the time. They want new content, they want new product. So yeah, I think one more time, and I think all of us around the table, we all love skiing. That's why we're here probably. But you need to disturb the market and bring new things, and that's what we all trying to do, and that's what Mike tried to do with and did with Forefront, and doing again today with this new brand. It's to. Then you were saying that the market is flat. Totally. I think it's good if it's still flat, I will say. But we need independent brand. We need brands who disturb the market to also create some dynamic to the consumer and to get some new consumer, the youth, to show them like, skiing is good, it's cool. And that's why we need new brand, and we need to challenge ourselves. Me as Black Rose, the brand, next year it will be our 15th anniversary. We really need to challenge ourselves, to be sure we are we still like being what we do and trying to bring new stuff on the market. And, that's, I think that's how we have to act. But that's true today with the over rhythm of communication. It's probably more intense in terms of rhythm and to have to stay all the time online and connected to see what's going on in any sense.
All right, story time. You guys have spoken well about the challenges of starting and then the bigger challenge, sustaining a brand. And this, I feel kind of bad asking this because I feel like I'm about to induce some anxiety in each of you, but I would be interested in having each of you share an anecdote, a story about a particularly reckless move that each of you have made in the history of your respective companies, and then assess that for us. You took a chance, you did something that was arguably sketchy or real stupid. And then I'd be curious to hear you say today whether you think that move paid off, like, being bold paid off in that moment, or if it actually just turned out to be a really tough lesson learned. So let's raise the anxiety level here, revisit the history, and see if collectively we can learn anything about some of your respective experiences. Dan, you're looking smug right now. What do you got?
Well, I mean, this makes me think of an anecdote from Jake Burton that I heard after his passing, where he talked about how he had made every mistake you could make at least once, and hopefully only once. So I feel like looking around here, we probably all, can come up with that. But you're not necessarily talking about a mistake like when I set 50 grand to the wrong bank account and was swindled. You're talking about when we were bold and maybe something that was kind of crazy. And, I think starting our entire brand was that way. But the first thing that comes to mind is gloves. We're not a glove company. We set out to make burly pants, but 15 years ago, 16 years ago, when we were going to trade shows, we couldn't get anybody to come by our booth and talk to us. And so we had to figure out a way to get store buyers to come by, media to come by and actually stop and pay attention. So the idea was, let's make some swag. Let's make cool swag. So we started buying Kinko gloves, and we got them blank, and we bought a brand and we marked them up. We were branding like a cattle brand in my backyard. And we realized that the ski patrollers in Jackson Hole were using Kinkos, but they didn't look like anybody else's Kinkos. They were actually like baked with snow seals. So there Greg and I were in my kitchen, baking gloves and then coating them with snow seal like we were doing for ourselves. But, we made this swag, and we show up at the trade show and we start handing these things out. And the issue was that there was such a buzz about this. There was such a, we were taking a standard product, but innovating with it for the reason of just getting attention. And the issue was that we got so much attention that all of a sudden Greg and I were spending all Sunday, every part of the year, baking gloves, eventually in my backyard. And it became a real production issue. It's still a huge production issue to take product and then bake it in an oven and coat it with snow seal and, and ship it out. Sometimes we were shipping it warm. Store owners would open up these bags and they'd complain because they smelled like diesel fumes, because that's what beeswax smells like when it's hot and trapped in a bag. And so I still question it now, 16 years later, like, why do we do this? But it's a unique defining characteristic of, an offshoot product that's now made us a glove brand, and we have tons of different styles, and we do 80,000 pairs of gloves a year. And, so being bold and doing stuff that, like doesn't necessarily make sense, can pay off, but still causes me anxiety.
Camille.
I don't know. I probably have many anecdotes. From my side, the most crazy, not most crazy, but just the fact to have started a ski brand, it's something. It was not at all in my plan, and but from one day to another, I say, okay, why not? Let's try it. Maybe there's something to do. And since that, 15 years later, I'm still tonight at now it's 6:30 p.m. talking about ski brand, skiing and stuff, because I used to love skiing and ski every day, but I had no plan at all to start a ski brand. But when we had press, just started with one ski and go to one trade show was ISPO, and it's just like starting like a roller coaster, and it had never stopped since that. But I don't know. Now behind me, for example, I have we are in our office in Chamonix, and I have a picture in studio. It's since the beginning with Black Rose, we always did like a picture campaign, photo picture in studio. But it just started. It was the first year of Black Rose. I was in August. It was in August. I was in south of France. It was like 35 degrees, but the European way. I don't have the conversion. Sorry, guys. And we said, wow, we need a hat for a ski magazine, because at that time, ad in ski magazine was crucial. And I used to work for ski magazines, and we can have a good deal. Okay, we need a hat. What do we do? It's so good. There's no snow. And we said, okay, let's do something in studio. And we said, oh yeah, maybe there is this Japanese people wearing black, they carry people, and it started like that. And at the end, we said, we are the Black Crows, so we're gonna have some albinos crows, and it started like that. And we just say our tagline was, there is albino crows, but you can't see them in the snow, and that's pure marketing strategy, because 15 years later we still do the same, So yeah. that was just instinctive marketing, but just do something where you believe in it, and yeah, you disturb a bit if you have fun and you think you're doing something that makes sense, even if it's a bit absurd. But just to remind ourselves that skiing is, after all, it's only a pleasure, and we are so lucky to could ski. It was just like that. Okay, let's put some skis on a picture and let's go skiing. And that was my long anecdote. Probably I talked too long.
So Camille's reckless move was just get super weird and then stay super weird. Okay, so I'm going to file that.
Try to do it well. Weird, but
weird well. Weird done well. I'm going to write that down.
Okay. That's a marketing.
Ben, what was the reckless move that either ended up paying off or ended in a total dumpster fire?
Gosh, there's definitely a lot. There's been big ones, from like trying to make boots for a couple of years, major mistake, to, a lot of big ones, but the one that really came to mind first was, it was our very first year in production. We'd gone to the trade show, we got pre-book orders, we had enough money to do this production run. And at that time, getting our top sheets printed was like a multi-step process. It wasn't done in-house, where like, I think Mervyn was printing them. Well, I'd get transfers done in Colorado Springs. I'd ship them up to Mervyn in the Northwest. They'd do the heat transfer for me. Then it would the materials coming in from Europe. It was just like this multi-step expensive process. And it was our first year, and we had the first prints off the proof, and it was a offset printing. So like kind of like how they print newspapers. So, I mean, they can rip out prints, and we were ready to go proof them. And I was like overwhelmed doing all the other things, trying to start a business. So I just sent a buddy down to proof them for me. And he came back with the top sheets, and I looked at them. Like one of them, for instance, it was supposed to be like kind of pinks and blues, those colorways. And it's literally like browns and greens. And I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's the top sheets. I'm like, what? And then we came to find out that he was colorblind. So I sent a colorblind kid down to do the first proof. And it was terrible because once he okayed the proof, I mean, they hit the button and that the order was done. And it was like, $30,000 or something. It was just like, what? And we didn't have 30 grand, so it was a scramble to try to get another 30 grand to print more top sheets. And yeah, that was, I still joke about that. I'm like, oh, send a colorblind kid to proof the top sheets.
That's kind of amazing. Okay. All right. Matt, top that one.
No, I can't. That one's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I've said a couple of things that come to mind was obviously trying to take over distributor territories with sales reps, and thinking that I could also take on distribution in a foreign country and manage sales reps. And that led to a lot of rental cars driving around the country landscapes that I knew nothing about, interacting with people I couldn't speak the language with, all for the betterment of trying to make an extra 5% of profit. But I think the biggest mistake that we made, which did have it had a positive impact in terms of our learnings, but it didn't have a financial benefit at all. It actually cost us quite a bit of money, was being so eager to grow. We were probably at the crux where we're working with our factories, and they're constantly pushing for bigger volume, of course. And we're at trade shows and we're like, man, if we could get in with like that Intersport, or we could get in with that Christie Sports or whatever, like we would be able to really bolster volume. And so we kind of unfortunately took our eye off the design that we were intending to create, and listened to them into what kind of ski designs they felt would be successful from us. And so, we lent some vulnerability to them in terms of our vision for the brand, and said, okay, well, what kind of skis, if we made them, would you be interested in buying? Because the shapes up until then, they were too obscure for their interest. They didn't think that the mainstream market would be interested in our designs. And so we went to, the design floor and started building skis out that were nothing like what we had done in the past. And, we sold those skis into those retailers, and we saw a big growth spike in our volume with the factory. And there was some short-lived revenue, but the sell-through wasn't there. And now I was stuck trying to figure out how to sell all of these skis that I didn't even relate to, that had our name on it, in all these retailers across the globe. And I just wanted them to evaporate. I've never wanted a container to sink in the middle of the ocean so bad. Because now I had all this product branded with this name that we spent so much time trying to build a really core image for, that was like super diluted just to appease these dealers. And it didn't even check out because our customers didn't want it. We are, what I learned is that we are the experts, and the consumers are expecting us to deliver them trend-setting products. And the retailer interface is critical because it helps create that touch point. But they're ultimately looking out for what's best for them, which is margins and sell-through. And they too want to be part of the story, and they are. But you have to be mindful that the consumer is ultimately the person that sets the price. And they're the one who controls the demand. And so we, unfortunately, were too reactive to market trends at the time. And so I guess what I learned is no, I wouldn't do it again. It was a huge ego check. It taught me to slow down, be more methodical, be patient. It's not a whole lot different than what it's like when you blow your ACL. It just stops the train. Priorities have to reset. You have to analyze the past, focus on the present, and now build for the future. And it just hardened our position for who we were going to be in the market. And for whatever volume or scale that brand became, we need to be content with. So more of a sobering learning experience, but definitely exposed a lot of vulnerability. And I think just that anxiousness of being like a young entrepreneur wanting to succeed and being just confused in the sea of competition, just took our eye off the ball, and it cost us 3 years of time and tied a bunch of capital, and it tarnished relationships with retailers. So, I guess it's to those who are listening to the panel, like, just be humble with your growth curve and stay true to your core morals, because that's ultimately where it's going to lead you to your success.
That was really good. All of those answers were really, people need to rewind, go back and listen to what each of you just said on this topic, I think. So let's stick with this question of growth. Matt, you just spoke to this really well. But I'm wondering if you all would be able to help us get a bit of a blueprint or something approximating an algorithm or something other than just dumb luck, right? To the question of, as Matt just said, when do you kind of stay focused on your current audience, your current customer base, and when you try to start stepping away and expand what you're doing? You all have now talked about examples of trying to do this, how you think about it. Some of it does come down, I think, to dumb luck, but can we get past anything other than dumb luck? And I think it's something that I think every business, I can't imagine a business that is actually healthy not wrestling with this question. So Matt, why don't we keep it with you? How do you think about this? Or you're welcome to say, sorry, it's just dumb luck. Good luck out there, everybody.
No, it's not dumb luck. I think a lot of it's driven by lifestyle. I mean, we focus our efforts on some very narrowly focused product categories, but there's an all-encompassing lifestyle that brings that product experience to life. So it's important that you remain mindful that just because your entry point may have been skiing or textiles, like in Dan's case, ski pants, moving into gloves became a natural progression. They were wearing gloves and they were wearing their ski pants, and it became an opportunity to innovate in that space and build the brand equity across various categories. So I think being mindful that the brand is often more than what you intended it to be. It's cool when you see a sticker on the back of a car. It's like when you sit next to somebody on the airplane and you ask them what do they do, and they say I'm a skier, and it's like, well, I'm a dad, I've got a job, I do this, or I'm in sales, I'm in marketing, whatever. But in the end of the day, I'm a skier. That's who I am on this earth. And that's what gets me out of bed every day. And I try to centralize all my activities around this core passion I have for the sport. And so for us, I mean, it's just allowing your brand to evolve, believing in the lifestyle contribution to that is, ways to take your brand into other categories. For us with Wonder, it's we started in ski, we're going to get into snow, we're going to move into textiles, we're a materials brand. We want to innovate and democratize different innovations so other brands could see ways to grow their base of materials through the use of some of the research that we're putting in. So, I mean, while I'm always going to be a diehard skier and whatnot, I'm excited at the opportunity to become more well-rounded as an outdoor brand and to see bumper stickers start popping up here and there around town. So, and I see that has become the case with a lot of the other leaders of brands on this panel. So that's something I think you just have to be mindful is part of the evolution, and be accepting that the brands could take a direction that you didn't necessarily see coming, but it needs to be one that's welcomed.
Dan?
We kind of at Flylow every 6 months, the powers that be, or those of us that have a stake in the company, we kind of get together and we talk about how we're feeling, where we want to go, where do we want to be in 5 years. If you want to be owning your company and you love your lifestyle like I do right now, then I'm going to look for what I think of as sustainable growth. So, I want to grow enough that, I think that if I'm doing the right thing and our product is making people happy, they're going to spread that good word, that it's going to be word of mouth. And so maybe we're going to grow in the 20% range. And maybe I can sustain that by reinvesting all income into the company like I've done for all these years. And we can continue to grow and we can maintain this independent company standpoint. If at some point you start to think about, like I'm an entrepreneur and I would like to start another brand, I would like to move on, you're going to accelerate your growth. And we all can do that. We all have these levers that we can pull that can make us either grow the company faster or make us generate more income. And at which point you're grooming your company to sell. And can you do that before the consumer sees that you're trying to do that you're trying to get out? Because instantly you're going to be making different decisions. And man, what Matt just said, like 2 points ago about being careful about your large retail partners steering your ship and staying true to your core is so important. At the same time, you can't, like none of us can be afraid to experiment. So we all have to have our core businesses. We all have to, like experiment a little above, like in terms of what I really get passionate about, which is making the most high tech, coolest stuff with new technology, but also think about, like people that can't necessarily afford a $400 pair of pants. So I don't want to be elite and above them. And it's a real juggling act to do that. I think when you start working with people with more experience or people that are experienced with, like larger companies that are so growth driven, that's where I feel like amongst my team and my coworkers that I work with, sometimes I have to tell them, guys, you don't have to try to grow at 50% a year. Mm-hmm. We don't need you to grow that fast. Just do your job, like go exercise, go skiing, please, and enjoy yourself and have a balanced life and be happy. And we'll let you know if, if we've changed our mind. But, like so far we're having such a good time that we're not in that ultra growth mode. So it's, I like being there. And I think, to Matt's point of being patient, when I talk to entrepreneurs all the time, it's like, I tell them all the time, you're going to want to do more stuff than you could possibly do in a day. Be patient, give yourself time. And I needed Matt to tell me that today. So we, like you can't forget that. You can't forget that.
Yeah.
Camille. Yeah. As Matt said, we are in the niche of the market, and, but what it's, us at Black Rose, with our experience, it's interesting is probably Bruno Compagnie, the other like skier founder with me, almost since the beginning. Of course, we wanted to make product ski for the core skier, for the people of what we call here in Chamonix of the la première benne, of the first lift in the morning, just to do the first track and us, we have to stick to that. And I think all of us there on the table, because our brands are stick to the core, to really the source of the practice. But Bruno and me also, we had the ideas. We wanted to share this pleasure of skiing through some product. And me, I take the example often of my family, because I said, I had in mind to develop product for my family. And that's true. Today I have my dad, who is 80 years old mountain guide in Chamonix, and he ski Black Rose. And I have my kids, they ski Black Rose too, and I think you in your niche, you can become a bit popular, but you can totally stay true, because if you make good product to make sense, I'm not gonna develop product for kids who are just like bad, with Julien Régnier, who shape all the skis, if we think a junior skis, we try to make something make sense. And same the ski the ski who use my dad, it's the same ski I use. And I mean, if you can extend your audience, but you make products who are true, make sense, I think it totally makes sense. If you don't sell bullshit to the people, and I think you can really, really extend. After, in terms of product categories, just to finish on that, Black Rose, we have a strong logo. We have a purpose in design. We follow the same purpose since the first day. Every design we do is made with our chevron, and we could the direction even 10 years ago to say, okay, guys, let's try to make some volume. We have some strong design. Let's take some open molds. Let's do helmets, goggles, whatever, and let's try to like push and stuff. But we didn't took that direction. Was it a good choice or not? I don't know. We are still a very small company today, but we are still a company where when we decide to develop a new product, we try at our level to could bring something makes sense for us into that product. And today, Black Rose, we do ski, we do poles, and we decided to be in the outerwear as done, with a major challenge again. But we just thought, okay, maybe in outerwear we can bring something at our level, and we could have our own style and bring something to our consumer and to ourselves. But that's still true, I think.
Mm-hmm. Ben, how have you been thinking about the decision of when to try to expand the audience and when to just stay true to that core consumer that you already have at Icelantic?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it comes down to just sustainability, building a brand that's sustainable long-term. When we're doing this, it's like, we're not really building it to sell. It's a lifestyle decision. We love what we do. Our team is happy and everything like that. So it's like, how do we continue to preserve that? I think it's slightly different when you're initially starting, because, when you're trying to sell, you're trying to build sales. And I think, that especially like, we'll just say the first 5 years where it's just kind of full throttle, we need to get enough revenue to try to sustain some sort of a, healthy lifestyle. And it's kind of at that point where you're kind of making those decisions of, okay, do we continue just to throttle, full throttle? We're going to just continue to grow, pressuring your reps, working with these dealers, trying to get the biggest dealers, all that stuff. It's interesting when like, when you get it to a level like, okay, this is sustainable. Now we can actually, take a step back, telling the reps, like, we don't need to sell too much. Evolve the channels of distribution from, not being solely dependent on a retailer, with now, so many different ways to sell direct to consumer, and while not sabotaging the wholesale relationships that you've built over the last 10 plus years. So I think really where we are, I think as an industry, it's like, there's the opportunity to build a brand that is sustainable. It's so different than, we'll say, the tech industry, where it's like, we're going to ramp this up, we're going to build a brand, then we're going to turn it and flip it. It's like, there's not many sales stories in our industry that are, for a lot of profits. It's more of a desperation, keep it available, that type of a thing. So, really just working towards sustainability and channeling your expectations and your strategies to build that. And then when you start branching from your core product, like I said, we have tried that, like, I am a yes man, like, I see opportunities like, sure, yeah, let's do it, I've learned so much over the years from learning the hard ways from doing that. For instance, like I said, starting the boot company, or like trying to build boots. It's like, we are not a boot brand, So I think through those hard lessons, what I've kind of identified was really just continuing to have clear, core values as a brand, and what are the pillars that you've built your core product on. And then really trying to stay aligned with those as you bring new products to market. I think an interesting example of this is like a couple of years ago, we're based in Golden, and we have we opened our own like retail location. So, it's like we have skis in there, but skis, we also have a sell-through model. So it's like, we don't have skis all the time. So it's like, what are other products that we can, did we lose Jonathan?
I think we might. It's good. You keep going. I want to hear what you have to say.
Perfect. Yeah, but no, but it's like, how do we, continue to have new products that will fill this store? Like, how do we, and even the customers that are coming in, we'll say maybe not half, but there's quite a bit of people that came in there like, what is Icelantic? Just tourists. So it's like we need to expand our product offering to cater to this, fill the store, and somewhat build the brand. So how do we do this? And that's when we came up with like this whole, we're doing mountain swim. So it's our own like swim line. And I just kind of saw opportunity because it's like I was looking at all the swim lines. It's all ocean surf based. Even Patagonia, they market it as like ocean surf, and I kind of saw an opportunity where it's like, okay, like there's a lot of people that live in that environment and support it and need that gear, but there's also a lot of people that live outside of that environment that still like want to align with it. And I thought the mountains were the same. So it's like, let's just build a brand that caters, more to the mountain lifestyle, rivers, hot springs, cliff jumping, sup, that type of a piece, and then build it on the core values of our brand, made here in the States, an artwork story, a sustainability story, a sell-through model, that type of a piece. And off our logo, like the 1 degree Celsius, that's what really tied it in. When I was pitching this to the team, it was like, it's like 1 degree Celsius. We talk about how it's that transition from water to ice, but then it's also the thaw, so it's like we can play off the logo of like 1 degree, and it's the water that fills it in. So like it just really aligned with the brand. And I think because of that, our whole team aligned with the vision. And because of that, it worked. Every other one of these decisions, when we made boots, for instance, like no one was behind this. It was me, like I'm trying to get our internal team to get behind it. And, it was a nightmare. Luckily we were, we weren't dumb enough. We were able to pull the plug quick. I saw it a year and a half. We're like, let's get out before we lose money. Luckily we didn't lose any money on it, but yeah, we cut and run quick. But yeah,
because you did launch boots.
Yeah, it was like I'm trying to. I think it was like 2013.
First degree boots.
First degree boots. Yeah, it was some of the guys from Deluxe in Austria. They had a mold, and this guy Marty. Oh, Marty Kerrigan.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Marty was the connector. He like was over there, and he like called me. He's like, I got this boot. Like you don't have to pay anything to do the molds, and we can just brand it and blah 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 blah. And yeah. And then it was different going to boot tests. It's like we are not in the boot industry. They're asking me questions about it. I'm like, yeah, pretty legit.
What's the last?
Yeah. This is the last pair.
But there's this whole product life cycle, like we all have these products that, like eventually you either have to modify them or we have to innovate and come up with, like with a different product. So you got to try it out. And then when I saw you do that, and actually it makes me think of, we launched summer and now it's mountain bike apparel, but like it was a chance for me to take everything I learned over 10 years of starting a company and apply it to a new product. So when you guys had that, you had a little 10 by 10 dedicated in your booth. It was this black wall with this Stormtrooper boot. It was cool to see, and you were starting over a new brand, and it was interesting the way the way you guys have branded it. But now Matt has a new brand, Matt, are you going to stick with the direct to consumer model? I mean, I was on your site the other day learning more about it. So you have 2 models of skis. Like where's your hat at, or your head at with your ski brand?
Yeah. So the goal is to obviously get it into a kind of a well-rounded outdoor brand presence. Skis was the first obvious place to start with the materials side. Building skis for all these years, like you touched on briefly, Dan, like we kind of knew about the ingredients that were to be used to make up like the best recipe. And for us at Forefront, it was about, can we just develop a relationship with our sponsors to in turn make them our suppliers, so that we could just focus on the design of the skis and using the athletes more integral in the design process. Because it wasn't that we weren't satisfied with the skis construction that we were skiing on. We were at ends with the designer mindsets of those European race companies that we were depending on to help support us in our own personal athletic pursuits. So getting the athletes involved in the design process required us to kind of reorient how that relationship existed with our supply chain. And once we were able to establish that, we then realized like, hey, we just want to make the best possible skis we can with our designs. And so bear witnessing to a lot of the major factories in the world, it was pretty obvious that the raw material supply chain had been completely monopolized. And because of like the lack of growth in the category, what was the incentive for those raw material suppliers to invest in new innovative materials, knowing that they were only going to sell the same amount of it next year? How were they ever going to recoup that investment? So kind of seeing that project through, and then kind of realizing that really the only, like the next frontier in terms of product design innovation is going to be deconstructing the raw material inputs. And that's how like I got connected with biotech, and it was like, well, we can make completely new polymers from renewable resources that are petroleum free, or well, that are not majority petroleum based. And that would give us the ability to kind of be a little bit more application centric in our design application. So if like if the polymer is going to be relied upon for the following purposes of performance, then we could tune that chemically to fit that application set. And then once we started realizing the control of the material, we also started to then question the manufacturing techniques that we've been dependent on and using for all these years with other types of extruded materials. So, and this I know carries over really cleanly also into the textile story, is that there's just a ton of waste.
Well, we just had veggie based laminates offered to us, that we're testing now, and it's like, man, if it's the performance is the same and it's coming from a better place, it's like, we're a modern company. We're going to try it out, and hopefully we can move that way, and the whole industry can shift that way. And that way you don't necessarily have to say like Flylow veggie, because it should just be a given that, if it comes down to a choice of using a better material, something that's better for the world, we're going to do it.
Yeah. And with that new material innovation, then you get new ways of accessing the control of how it's developed. That's where like kind of opening up the book a little bit for interpretation helps. So now you can see things differently, and that can increase the ceiling of potential. I've been using the analogy because I'm a big like MotoGP fan, in that like there was an era in motocross racing where like the two-stroke was as tuned and as polished as it possibly could be, and there was dominant athletes in the space wringing these two-stroke motorcycles' necks for world championships. And then the Japanese industry came down and was like, no, we're going to move to four strokes. And some of those premier riders at the time who had these consecutive titles bowed out of their contracts because they didn't want to feel forced into riding a four-cycle motor. But yet the engineering team believed that like this motor package could provide an even greater amount of performance than what we can realize with this two-cycle motor. And so, of course, those who had been forced to ride the four-cycle motor, like they didn't perform nearly as well. But now, like fast forward, whatever it is, like I think the last two-stroke bike was probably 2007 or something in production. So we're in 2021, and there's not a two-stroke in sight. They're all four-stroke. Purists could call it what they want, but like the power curve of a four-cycle motor was correct because now the performance is so much greater. But sometimes the industry just has to stop and say, hey, like we pushed this path a long way, right? We know what we've been able to accomplish. Maybe it's time to like take a step back, reassess like the bill of materials that we're dependent on in building these products of life, bring in some new innovative ideas, how that impacts manufacturing techniques could also be beneficial, and then see if we can elevate the ceiling of performance from there. If we just keep going down with our head down and we keep trying to innovate through the same exact raw material supply chains that have monopolized the industry for decades, what level of performance do we think we're ultimately going to reach? Will it be incrementally great? I don't think so. So like, I don't know. I feel like we're just at like kind of a precipice and starting a new chapter in terms of textile, hard good, material applications. And that is where I think we could really have a big impact on the legacy of these industries that we're all contributing to today, in thinking differently in ways that the previous brands that we were patronizing growing up didn't have the courage to do. Like at one point I thought, hey, we could be a more expressive brand and we could create more of a lifestyle-centric identity for outdoor winter sport activities. But now I'm thinking like we could be even more influential in the product and speak to some of these alternative ideas where technology is allowing us to think differently about the ways in which we learn how to maybe make our products at first.
Yeah. Interesting.
We kind of have that responsibility.
Totally.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and we all know that anyway. We need globally to make evolve technology, the way to produce, the way to sell, the way to pack the product, to ship the product, etc. So it's a all, especially in the outdoor, with the main activity in nature. So no, that's I think that's very interesting what you're doing, and that's very I would say that courageous too, to also after your experience for front, to restart and to believe also in your like in that plan who makes sense, also in terms of ideas and technology and with textile, we took the decision to really move all our membrane to get like almost 90% of like recyclable or recycled material, but because anyway today we didn't mention that, when Jonathan asked us if you start today a new brand, and that's what you're doing, Matt, but it's directly to take the direction why it's need to be more sustainable, and for the existing company, we need to move forward strongly in that direction to could find solution. And if it in plus it brings some technical evolution, or it's first it's interesting, and second it's key, it's great.
Yeah. Well, we're all small enough, we have the ability to engage in new opportunities quicker than some of the more legacy centric brands that are really quite rigid by nature of their structure. Their line plan is already built out to 2025, and it's because it's been through hundreds of sales reps and distributors' opinions. There's no turning it around because somebody called you one day and said, "Hey, I've got an alternative material. Would you like to interrogate?" And they're like, "Oh, we're good."
Like they're all looking at us. They're looking at our small niche, cool brands. And so we actually have the ability to influence those larger brands. Once we start moving down the path that we believe in, they may think of it as marketable, but eventually they'll find it profitable if we keep pushing it further and further. And
I love that concept of just normalizing it, not letting it be the offset, or like just the, just how do you normalize it? And that's the thing. It's like, how do we work together to shift, to really shift this and, make some real leaps and convince manufacturing. Where are you manufacturing them yourself, Matt? Like, did you build a shop in Utah, or you worked with another factory?
No, it's all here in Salt Lake.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because that's the other thing too, is like, how do you can work with, some of these factories that have been along for so long and get them to shift their... Oh, he's back.
Having a great conversation.
We are having a great Oh, nice.
Was that okay? Did it get better when I left?
It did.
That was insane.
We control the channel now.
Yeah, exactly.
Jonathan, we're not sure you're welcome back.
Yeah. You shall not pass. But you are building them in Utah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just part of the technology validation,
Yep, totally.
And that's why WNDR Alpine exists, is so that we can show and prove that these innovations are, performing at an acceptable rate. And when we first started thinking about how to interrogate the material supply chain, it was with a jar of oil, and most product designers didn't relate to oil being a core component of their product.
Yep.
Because they've never seen it in that kind of form. So then when you come back to the show with a ski, and now you have like a native language that you can communicate how it is that you're seeing the world differently from a material point of view. And of course you need to try to figure out a way to present that showcase yourself.
Yep.
And you're naive to think you can pass that on to someone else if you haven't fully validated all the nuances of working with your materials.
Totally.
So, fortunately, we have enough runway where we can start to, build out that platform of independence and manufacturing and whatnot to create these products, and then be able to really provide some, not only just data points on the materials, but the application set. Here's how it compares to the incumbent materials that are in this space.
Yeah.
and how to also then start to conceptualize the benefits in terms of the marketing story and whatnot that comes, because we can look back at what WNDR Alpine has done and say, hey, like, here's how consumers were reacting to certain innovations that we were making. Here's certain things that we transposed to the audience that were really receptive. It also helps us kind of take leadership in this whole B Corp thing, which I know is building momentum globally. Maybe, obviously more so recently than in years past. I feel like younger consumers are demanding more transparency.
Yep.
So I
There
think
they
it's
are.
cool.
Oh, the host is
All right,
back.
so we were kind of did the when to grow, when to not grow, like when to fight growth or something, right? And stay. Where did you guys go after that?
We talked a lot about sustainability and, where I left when you called me was that, we had all kind of agreed that it would be pretty cool, or that hopefully small niche brands like us that are cutting edge that, media likes to look at. And also, not just because we make amazing product, but also because you guys as media need new, that if we start focusing on sustainability and sustainable, materials, that we could kind of bully the larger heritage brands into following suit.
Normalize it.
By the way, Dan, how dare you accuse me of needing new? Because I'm literally the only person in the ski industry that tells people not to change stuff.
Well, I need new, I love it.
Yeah, you do. I'm
like, this pocket sucks. This jacket needs to be more breathable.
Sometimes. Anyway, I like...
Yeah, you also missed a segment about Ben talking about how the retail store in Golden has propelled new product like diversity. And Ben, I didn't know enough about that. I'm really excited to look closer at Icelantic's progress with the mountain swim model.
Yeah.
Because that's really cool, and that's just being mindful of how these brands are capable to evolve in ways that you didn't necessarily see it, but with maintaining like that really core branding identity and sticking true to your philosophies, that it's fun to let it become more encompassing of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And just specifically around a particular technical product that you initially visioned from the beginning.
And truthfully, without taking much risk. It's like we're not going in and buying huge quantities. It's like I'm finding manufacturers that can do small quantities.
Yeah.
It's a direct to consumer approach. So I'm not, I'm designing real time right now what's going to be out in 3 months. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so quick. So it's like we can see what's happening, what's relevant, and bring it to market right then.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of
our marketing team would like it. Yep.
The sustainability of business that in the cycles of our world, unless you can have a huge South American or Southern Hemisphere distribution model, you're sitting on cash right now, waiting to pay for your fall production run. So if you can get a second turn on that money, that allows you to ensure the jobs that you've created because you're making your business more sustainable.
Yeah, I think cash flow is one of the toughest things in this industry, especially before there was really a direct-to-consumer, or even before there was the opportunity for direct-to-consumer, or that it was even understood. So, before, it's like when we were starting, we would have I think all of us understood, it's like we'd have all of your cash come in like 2 months out of the year, and that's if the dealers paid on time, or on time, or paid at all, so it's like, oh my gosh, that is not, so like when you transition to more of a direct approach, I think we started about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was the best decision we ever made. It's like but I also think it was a good approach. I think one thing that's a little bit different than our brand through, a lot of, whether it's new ones or traditional ones, like a lot of people will commit to an outlet, it's like we are a direct to consumer brand, or we are we're going to sell to our wholesalers. And, the fact that we spent the first 10 years of our business really just focusing on building these wholesale relationships or dealer relationships, it allowed us to take a direct to consumer approach, be very open and honest about that decision, without ruining those relationships. It wasn't an approach saying like, this is better, whatever it may be, but it was like we allowed it, and we continue to see, our wholesale numbers continue to grow for sure. as our direct to consumer business continues to grow. And it still just feels so good to have literally money come in every day. It's like, I still have like notifications on my phone, with Shopify or whatever. It's like, cha-ching, like every time we sell it, it's a sticker even, so it's like, even just for morale, like our whole team is like, and we're checking, like, just seeing that revenue. And I mean, that changed it's changed our business on it really made our business sustainable, like I said, the just being a small brand, 100% dependent on the retail landscape of the ski industry is pretty tough with how weather dependent, and just the relationship they've had with the bigger brands where it's like, okay, I need to pay my bills. I'm getting all these ones off first. You guys are the, end of the line, even though we've sold through on your product, it's a tough situation to be in, but through the years, it's just evolved and we built the right relationships with the right dealers and, don't feel too much pressure to grow that distribution, channel and now just really continue to focus on, a direct to consumer approach. And sorry, I'm going to say one more little piece about this, but while also trying to create products that have a longer life cycle. I think that's one thing that's so different about our industry is, how much a product devalues after 6 months on the market is really unlike almost any other industry. When you really think about it, there's not much else out there that devalues as much as our product. So, that's one thing that we continue to focus on is like, okay, what are some different products that we could bring out that have a long-term life cycle that we can hold margin, that we can continue to sell, while also protecting and really staying true to this sell-through model of our inline product. And that balance, I think it's really working. It's like we sell out of our, our skis every year, but we also, now I'm trying to like continue to produce skis year round. So we have something available for the customer. That's different. So,
yeah.
And sorry, the last thing I'm gonna say is now the challenge is like what I'm trying to do right now is like try to take some of these concepts and integrate it back into a wholesale channel. So like, is there opportunity to create product that has more of this long-term life cycle in a wholesale, in a retailer? So I don't know. That's literally where I'm focusing right now.
Yeah, I think if I could just add a 10th point to that argument, and unfortunately the industry has met this direct-to-consumer model evolution with opposition. And in my opinion, any of the dealer heads that are listening to this panel should be like so grateful that any of their brands are choosing to start selling direct-to-consumer because it gives you, as a brand, a really intimate connection with the consumer, which has a direct impact on how you guide the brand evolution. Your product line is even more focused because you have direct feedback coming to you from the consumer. Ultimately, that's benefiting the retailer because your product offering is much more accurate as a result. And then to your point about being compensated along the way, that's giving you the ability to continue to service those retail partnerships because sometimes they don't have the best snow year. Sometimes they're behind on their bills. If you have cash coming in, throughout the course of the season, it's giving you more flexibility where you're not having to leverage that relationship as like pay up or like we're done. You can be much more supportive of them because you've been able to diversify your income stream. And so it's super short-sighted for a retailer to turn their back on a brand because of a growing focus around direct to consumer. Because they're going to get so much more out of that brand if they succeed in selling direct to consumer. And I think we see that even like with the biggest brands like a Burton, for example, they went big with direct to consumer and they're open up and their pre-booking pressure now is like, hey, just order whatever you think you need. You know what I mean? Because like as a business, we have diversified the way in which we need to grow our revenue. We have flagship stores, direct to consumers thriving, and we have a huge network of retailers, but we're not here to like force you to buy A to Z in our book because we know that's not right for your business. And I think that's important for retailers to realize, like they're supported because there's these alternative revenue streams, and that retailers ultimately have they have a captive audience, consumers who are willing to buy from them, and that's what makes them relevant in the chain of distribution. And so, if they're succeeding as a retailer, they've locked up the community, and that community patronizes that retailer because they're the purveyor of all appropriate goods for that environment. And so if you need to get outfitted for an activity, you go to that shop because that shop knows what brands make the right products for the right job in that environment. You know, if you want to go do certain activities in the West Coast, it's different than certain activities you could look like doing on the East Coast. And that's the value of those local retailers. And so as long as they're doing their job, it's at no, you know what I mean, competition with the brand to be also trying to nurture a more broad e-com strategy. I'll put it there.
In the post-pandemic world, you know, where retailers had no choice but to cancel their orders last spring, big orders, it made this idea of direct to consumer, you know, like especially for omni-channel brands, which is the buzzword that, you know, flylowgear.com sells direct and we sell to wholesale, but it all of a sudden made it so that, you know, the retailers didn't look down upon us for having that omni-channel, for having that direct channel. And I think a lot of stuff has shifted, but you know, besides increasing brand presence by being able to expand our, you know, like our footprint, seeing that shift from maybe 20% direct to consumer to 35% direct to consumer means that Flylow can make anything we want, that we can actually innovate now because we don't have to come up with a product, ask our retailers, are you guys going to support this? If they don't like it, you know, like from the inception, because it's new, it's different, it's scary. In the past, we would just have to kill it, as in not go to market with the product. Mm-hmm. And now we're the masters of our own fate. We can try stuff because we know, you know, like even if you make a funky, you know, 30-pound pair of pants that is made out of titanium, I could probably find 500 people that might give it a shot. And whereas in the past, we couldn't do that. So yeah. I think it's a real new world, and this idea of omni-channel, you know, like is actually coming to fruition.
Yeah, you can go smaller minimums, take in higher cost inputs because you're not held to this keystone margin to deliver terms with sale of the good to a retailer. You can make a small volume of it, pay more for it to make it, but still be competitive at the sale price point until you can start to build that out more maturely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and what is very interesting, I think we are really starting to like build new relationship with the special retailers, you know, and of course the good retailers, the small core shop or some bigger one, you know, they had to adapt themselves and now, as you said, Guy, between some like direct to consumer and build a new relationship with the shops who are really making sense, where the consumer can find like also really the information he's looking for in parallel of what he's going to find on the website of brands. I think it's very interesting for the market because we, during the first pandemic, I was thinking, okay, the people, I was in Germany, it was beautiful weather during 2 months, March, April, we were locked down, you know, and I was thinking, oh my God, all those people, they really gonna need to like just go out. And also I will practice biking, skiing, whatever, go back. And I think people, they really need that. And that's great. But also they need to be closer to the brand and also closer to their local retail shop. If the shop evolve like that. And I think that's very interesting for future, because people, they will need to, but for some who can, they will need to go outside and to do any kind of outdoor sports and others is skiing, but it's interesting. I think it's very interesting.
Are you guys currently selling direct to consumer in Europe?
Yeah. No, we do, and we do since few years, and we and in parallel of that, we really try to keep going to build a good relationship with local retailer, you know, and to find this balance. But also, you know, retailers, I think they realize that. I think all of us, we provide more and more information through our different channels, websites, social media, you know, and more we inform well the consumer Some of them, they will come direct to our website, but some of them, of course, they will go to the retailer because they will find also some information. They will touch the product, and I think there's a right balance to find that. And your point that we can try new things, we can avoid a bit the minimum and say, okay, let's try that product, or let's do these small quantities, and we put it on our website, and we propose it to few retailers, and that's great something also. And as we are all small brands, we will have the opportunity to do that. And I think for us, it's very exciting.
So we've been talking a lot about growth and the evolution of this industry, and I think you guys have just laid down a lot of really, really important information for people to be mindful of. And so appreciate that. One thing, though, that you guys have talked about is that the size of the market, and maybe we're focused more on like the snow sports market in particular, it's a bit stagnant, one of you has said, and I think somebody else said, or maybe even slightly declining. So I want to talk to you a bit about how we maybe counteract that, and, with the related questions of, becoming a more inclusive industry, both in terms of increasing female participation in these sports, and also increasing kind of the ethnic and cultural participation. And so first of all, if anybody's got the best idea and blueprint about how to do this, please share it with us. But I'd also be curious to hear how you all are thinking about this at your respective companies, or maybe something that you've seen that's been working well, in your own brands. Dan, I know we actually have to let you get going here soon, so maybe I'll start with you, and then we'll actually let you sign off, because you got things to do.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. It's also like a very loaded question, and it's something where, none of us, we all need to represent our brands and like the collective brain trusts that are going on there. In terms of growing growing the industry through inclusion, I think there's actually a couple things going on. First is we have a pandemic where people haven't been able to go to a gym. Mm-hmm. So everybody's getting outside. So inherently we have this momentum of people going outside, and at its core, skiing is an outdoor experience. I mean, we are burdened by the love of powder and, the drive that we have to get up that makes, good ski conditions, but still going out and just skiing is important. And then that translates year round, that, that this shift, all these people that are going outside and getting a feel of vitamin D along with their workout, and the mental benefits and the health benefits, all of these things, hopefully, even when gyms reopen and when that indoor culture comes back, we are able to retain more people and we can see a little bit of growth. I think in terms of inclusion, specifically in the ski industry, at Flylow, we've talked a lot about, not that we were ever trying to not include people. We just didn't make an emphasis on, asking our photographers and our videographers to work with athletes, authentic athletes of, of color and of other, ethnicities. So all this stuff is kind of happening at the same time. And, we've been working on that, making it more conscious and bringing it to the forefront. And hopefully that will, break down some of those barriers and, and get people to want to try, new sports. I think the other things about it, probably bigger is, is lowering the barriers to entry in skiing, and, figuring out what to do about expensive ski passes and rentals and all of that stuff. But from a Flylow standpoint, the initial response has been, let's try to show a more inclusive culture and, around skiing and mountain biking, and try to break down those barriers so that people feel welcome. and hopefully that, like that can help start to, like bring some people in. But I definitely don't claim to be an expert on DEI and, like, and how to crack this code. We just want to do our part. Thanks so much for having me, Jonathan. Guys, it was really enlightening.
We'll talk to you later,
soon.
Dan.
Hey,
Take care.
Hi, Dan. Ciao.
Camille, how has Black Crows not only thought about, but maybe actually have grown that sort of participation in the customer base? And, on the female side of things, or maybe it was always pretty equal from the get-go, or how are you thinking about these issues of inclusivity?
But us, for years, I don't remember exactly how many years, but first of all, we just had one ski and in one size. After we had another model in two size, and blah blah blah. So for years, we just used to do some, I would say, unisex product, and for me, it was totally making sense because it was just to play with the sizes. And if a shape works good, if it's playful, it could work. If it's efficient, if it's perform, if the skier can find what he's looking for, it could work for a man and a woman. But after a bit of experience, we realized that you get into a ski shops, you have men range, woman range, and us, we wanted to grow, we wanted to sell more to could survive, and we started to develop like woman range that we call birdie range. But our approach since the beginning it's always been the same. It's we propose the same product, same story. Us in Plus, it's the same graphic design. We just play with colors, and we tried a little bit with Julien Régnier at a moment to make some a bit lighter, but we realized it was just details and how we try in general to make some ski pretty playful. It didn't make any sense. So today our products are the same. As I say, we just play with colors. And recently this fall, I had a comment on social media because we post a woman ski because we love colors in general, and we like to play with colors and now not as you, Ben, we don't do any illustration. It's just geometric colors, minimal but bright because skis should stay bright and happy. We probably posted a woman ski was pink, and we had a comment, great guys, fantastic. You make pink skis for women. That's great, And we don't reply often, but I just replied to that one. I said, yeah, we love pink. The first ski ever we made, it was a 196 ski, and it's pink, and it's still pink, and it's probably our stiffer ski in the range because we propose the same, and men ski pink and women ski pink and whatever. So but just behind that, it's also in different categories, we put like a textile, not technical because of course a woman and a man are not shaped the same, but it's same. It's the same identity, same design, most of them same colors, etc., etc. So we have this approach, and it's in terms of market shares for us. We saw that the birdie range is doing very well. It's dynamic, and we realize that also because we are not expert in data and market analyze, but just through social media, when you see more and more like women skier posting pictures with the skis, and you see, okay, there's a dynamic. That's cool, and we managed to talk to everyone. And I don't know if it was the right answer to our question.
Well, I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, it's what you're doing. And so that's a big thing big part of what we wanted to hear. So, and I think there are definitely different approaches and ways to sort of get at this issue. And so I think one, just hearing this is how Black Crows has gone about it, I think is a useful thing. Matt, talk about how you are approaching things with WNDR Alpine.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to say about this. I'll keep it concise. On the product side, in my past, we were influenced by retail to some regard, knowing, like, just as Camille said, like, you have a men's wall and a women's wall, and to grow, you need to have presence in both. And I think in the beginning, we were always in the middle. That we felt our skis were capable of supporting both genders equally. But we didn't do our homework, honestly. We did make certain models in a wide enough size range, and we certainly didn't validate all sizes for all of the intended skiers. I think this argument could be made in footwear as well. I'm on the bigger side of footwear, size 13, 29.5, and you find boots that are just super inappropriate by dimension. Even though they looked really cool in a 26.5, by the time the spreadsheet built the 29.5, it was a moon boot, and it just doesn't perform nearly at the claims that they have for the more sample size of the model. Mm-hmm. Skis too. I mean, we maybe test a couple of longer lengths for men, and then we, drop everything by 7 centimeters, and the algorithm of a spreadsheet produces a 155, and we give that to a woman who is typically the most appropriate adult candidate for a 155 ski, and expect them to love it equally as we do the 181. And we just didn't do the homework, right? We didn't take the time to get that feedback. And so that's something that we've taken on more deliberately with respect to the technical side of supporting both genders. Like, we definitely see ourselves as a unisex brand, and our focus is backcountry. So there's some difference in terms of our technicality and how we approach the market with WNDR Alpine as compared to the history. But I think as a brand, our biggest initiative has been community. And I don't know if we possess the marketability to just like go boldly into a campaign that's just specific to women, and we've validated all the touch points that are sincere to their needs. But what we have realized is that they need to be included. And just recently, as of Saturday, we wrapped up a 3-day all women's backcountry event we called the Women's Roost here in Salt Lake. We all the way from the lead guides of the event were women down to the female photographer. And there was some men, for sure, me included, that were playing tail guides, but we weren't leading conversations. We were last one to the summit, last ones down, just keeping a background presence to support the safety. And that's only because we didn't have enough women guides that we can network with to support the whole group. But it was so cool just to hear women speak of their passions for backcountry skiing, and to have provided them with the confidence in their voice to kind of, be expressive. And so that's something that we've seen a really significant showing for, I guess. We've done all these different consumer events that are focusing around unisex interests, and or in this most recent case, specifically to women. And the interest to attend the event was significant, and the outcome was so sincere that it totally validated all of our efforts. And I feel like women just need to feel like they're more included in the conversation and less marketed to. And honestly, I don't know if it was just because, when you buy a red car, you see red cars, but we were skiing out of the skin track Saturday, and 80% of the uphill skiers were female. And I was just kind of like, what's going on? And I think it's the guys are out there at sunrise, right? They're looking at the backcountry much more as a result focused initiative, right? I'm going to get up early, whether I'm going to ski this face first and have the pristine turns, or I'm going to get on that peak first and ski that rad line first. Somehow men take backcountry skiing considerably more competitively by nature of our approach, I think. And this was one of the opportunities where I'm skiing down the up track at like 2:30 in the afternoon, and 80% of the uphill traffic is female. And I'm like, they're out for a walk. They're out for an experience to interact with their friends. And I think there's something really special about that cultural contribution to backcountry skiing that we have overlooked, seeing things through the lens of men, that women have a lot to teach us. So I was really inspired by that whole episode most recently. And I think just, again, adding them to the invite list, I think goes a long ways in growing the sports diversity.
Ben.
just how women impact this industry, it's continuing to evolve. Icelantic, Annalisa is our CEO, longtime friend, helped start the business. So, being, with a company that is run by a woman, that is a big piece. And, I think just as a brand strategy, over the last about 5 years, we've really worked towards creating a 50-50 balance. And you really look at that, like how we run the business. It's Anna and I that run this business, making decisions, everything. Like when we made that change, one of the things that we agreed on is like, we're not going to make any big decision unless we are both aligned on it. And that it's been awesome. I mean, every time that we have been aligned, it's been a good decision. There's been some challenging ones. So like starting with that type of balance at the top, and then how that has, kind of made its way down, on a product side, one of our main strategies is 50-50 offering, the 3 categories: free ride, all mountain backcountry. It's like, we want to have this 50-50 offering for men and women. Balance of our in-house team, continuing to hire, females to help make these decisions. These are long-term pieces, but, our last 2 hires have been females. So like continuing to build it on our in-house team, on our athlete team, continuing to build that female athlete presence. And we've seen success through all of that. On the product side, our sales are getting close to a 50-50 balance. Like our number 1 seller is still a men's ski, but our number 2 is a women. So like, it's really interesting to see how sales are kind of following that trend. I think that there is some challenges or questions that I'm still trying to determine, balance pricing. Can you, like a lot of times, in the market, you'll see the women's skis less expensive than the men's skis, so like, is there price integrity that can stay consistent? Is there, just the product offering? I think that's a tough one, just really with the range and what the true market is. When you take women's skis to a ski test, or you get them on your athletes, they want a men's ski pretty much, the lengths, the flex, the widths, all of those pieces. And then when you look at, what the market wants, it's a whole different product. So like, how do you find that balance and, get reviews on product, solid reviews on product that is going to truly sell to that core market? And how do you design product to kind of cater to both of those, that range of skier and level? We've done that in multiple ways, like really our women's collection, the construction is really the same than the men's counterpart, in terms of the materials that we're using in our freeride construction, our all mountain or backcountry construction, we have it consistent, so we're really not dumbing it down at all for like the women. We're playing with flex and, mounting positions and that type of stuff, mainly with core profiling. But, really letting the graphic really differentiate it, focusing towards, more, feminine type graphics that still relate and tell a story, like I said, just continuing this balance of like, it's very relatable to the men's side, but it's definitely more appealing to the women. So yeah, I mean, I guess just to sum that up, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And, we're really looking towards, it's not focusing on women and focusing on men. It's like, how do you differentiate them while giving them a consistent platform to truly have life for both of them?
Yeah.
And just one comment about backcountry, what we call ski touring in Europe.
Yeah.
Where like and
off the list.
But especially we don't have any more lifts in Europe, except Switzerland. Of course, backcountry ski touring is the only thing to do this winter in Europe. Mm-hmm. For us, we were already doing well, and it was, we have a kind of a line since years, and a kind of really a positioning in ski touring. We do monocolor design. Our range is doing very well. It's more than 35% of our business. It's the ski touring. But even recently, I had some requests say, why you don't do a woman freebird? We call the range freebird in touring, and And I just said, our positioning since the beginning, it's the same. We are trying to work on a lighter ski, but we ski well. We are really focused on the skiability. We have some monochrome design. We just need to play with more sizes. We need shorter sizes. And Matt, as you said, there's like more and more women going to ski touring because they just can go all of us, like for a short or long journey in group, alone, stuff and that. But really on the same product, we see really tons of women and men, and it's very interesting. Here in the Valley, every weekend we do some ski demo, and we are strangely the only brand we just at the end of the Valley in the tour, we have a tent, we have some ski touring demo. It's just free, so come to try us. It gives us the opportunity, always there's no lift, nothing, to just see who is coming to ski touring. And it's very, very interesting, and there's really a lot and more women, and from any generation. And us, we will just stay on this positioning that to provide the same product but play with the sizes, because I think we play enough with colors or design, so we're just not gonna tell something more.
It's pretty true just with the appeal to touring. It's crazy. My mom just came and asked me for some touring skis. And she doesn't really, she skis very recreationally. I'm like, oh, you're going to start hitting it. I'm like, so yeah, pretty interesting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to let you guys get going. And so we'll make this our last question. I'm interested in hearing if each of you might have a favorite bit of advice or kind of a guiding principle or a guiding quote that you have found yourselves to kind of rely on frequently to, I don't know, as a kind of, North Star or something like that. And maybe that's something that, somebody listening to this panel, it might resonate with them and kind of help them as they're trying to think about, maybe they're already directing a brand. Maybe they're thinking of starting one up, but anything on that front that has been important to each of you?
From my point of view, taking on the responsibility to elevate the entire category. There's a lot of self-serving pursuits in starting a brand, and you're entitled to that 100%, and you need to succeed in that respect. But do it so with a unique contribution to the family of brands that exist in the market today, and work towards solutions that give them opportunity to evolve in ways that perhaps they may just not have the same resources available to you. Because collectively, we're a very powerful bunch, and we can be super innovative, and to not get caught up in the selfishness of success, but to think about it in a bigger way. And that will lead to an even greater level of personal satisfaction as well as the category as a whole.
Ben.
I somewhat referenced it earlier, but just really committing to your idea. People always ask how did you start this? How did this happen? It's I committed 100% to it. There wasn't any backup plans. There was no, it's I'm not thinking about if this fails, I'm going to do this. It's just committing 100% and, not getting caught too up in how things are going to happen. How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to spend the time? How it's let that continue to evolve and, reveal itself to you as you're taking the steps forward. So, just commit to the idea, allow yourself to be open and nimble, and, leave your ego at the door.
Camille?
Yeah, to follow what Matt said, us at our level, it's we are trying to push a bit what we call in French English the ski culture, and for you guys in North America, it's a bit different because you have this, I would say, this free ski culture. It comes from North America, and us in the Alps, it's a bit different. We used to have a strong ski culture in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and after it became, and it's great. A lot of people had the opportunity to go more for the ski holidays, and also ideas still at our level. It's right. Okay, let's try to dynamize again a kind of a ski culture. And me, what I try to keep in mind, because we all know the ski business is not the best business in the world, and but I think, as I said, we are so lucky to could ski, and to give the opportunity to some people to use our product just for pleasure, and we all know it's hard. We are a small company. It could be a nightmare. It's but yeah, someday just remember, okay, Camille, come on. We are just so lucky, I see some friends who they have my age. They've took a direction in more like classic job, business, whatever, and I hope they're all happy. It's great. But I have some days I say, come on, look, it's what we are doing. It's so great. We are so lucky, and could sell some product for that pleasure. I think it's sometimes when I'm a bit slow, I say, okay, come on, we're so lucky. Don't complain, even if you're French, and just like let's moving forward.
Yeah. Have fun. It's like we sell fun. That's the best part. And it's like, if you're selling fun, you better be having fun too. So
yeah. You need to sweat to
It's not always fun.
I find myself, I maybe have mentioned it to you guys, and on the heels of this Blister Summit that I'm, still very much looking to recover from in the near future. I feel like our story at Blister is it's kind of been something like equal parts exhausting and exhilarating. And, I don't know, maybe the ratio will change over time, but I also think about, like, I don't know, we look at big ultra marathons or epic Super Bowls or whatever. No one likes the blowout game. No one likes the story where you just won by, 50 points and it was super easy, and so I think my little thought on this is anybody who's directing or thinking of starting a brand, it's going to be hard. It's going to be exhausting, but maybe it's a sign you're on the right path, that you're still finding those really exhilarating moments. And again, we're certainly too early in the story for it to be like 80% exhilarating and 20% exhausting. And maybe it never becomes that. It's always kind of both. But that's something that I have, from hearing you all talk just in this conversation, let alone in other conversations that I've had, I suspect there's a bit of resonance in your own stories with that. And I know firsthand the grind that you all are putting in on this. And so I don't know, here's to doing things that are both exhausting and really hard, and also kind of exhilarating and fun, to use Ben's word. So I think if you're pulling that off and staying alive, you're doing something right, maybe.
I agree.
Okay.
We should try. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, I really appreciate the time. And I think that what you all have just shared with your respective experiences and perspectives, I think is going to be really useful to a lot of people listening to this. So appreciate it. And we'll let you get going, and wish you guys all the best in your respective endeavors. So thanks again for being a part of this.
Thank you. Really good. Good to see you guys too.
Thank you, guys. Very good to see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Likewise. Nice to see you, Camille and Ben. And Jonathan, thanks for organizing this.
Yeah. Really well done. I'm excited to see the finished product.
We all ski soon.
Yeah.
Would love
I know. Gosh, open the pool. Yeah. I want to get to the Alps. I want to get to the Alps bad.
Come to the Alps. There's no leave.
Oh man. Living on Front Range, Colorado, and I've gotten so jaded. I'm like, oh man, it's different just being here all of winter.
Well,
but
Ben,
whatever.
Come down. You should come see us. Come see us, and we'd love to get you down here. And I was really hoping to get Annalise on one of these panels and was told that she's kind of taking some time right now. And so,
yeah, she's back though.
She's back.
So yeah, she was in Costa for 6 weeks.
Aha.
Yeah. Fully unplugged.
Anyway, Matt, I know you got to get going. Guys, thank you so much. And
Peace, guys.
we'll be in touch real soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.